Big news today in college football, though, of course. I mean, we've been talking a lot of basketball, but I know this audience really loves its football. I love my football, too, so I was stoked to see that the college football playoff schedule was released today for the 2024-25 season. Of course, now being expanded to 12 teams, so let's dive into this, everybody. You got the first round basically happening on Friday, December 20th, at least getting going. That one's on ESPN. It's a 5 p.m. Pacific kick. And then you got the other first round games, the final 3 being played Saturday, the next morning starting at 9 a.m. And that is the first TNT game that, of course, we heard ESPN basically leasing.
Yeah, subleasing?
That was kind of subleasing. I basically, they bought an apartment or were renting an apartment from a landlord and subleased that apartment themselves is kind of what's going on. But I've heard of that in the house and apartment world. I'd never heard of that in the sports broadcast entity world. But here we are. TNT, in lieu of most likely losing their NBA coverage, trying to supplement it with college football, which I guess that'll be fun. A couple of first-round games. They do baseball and basketball well. I don't have any reason.
They do hockey extremely well.
Exactly. So I don't have any reason to believe. I don't know, who's going to be calling their games yet. I don't know what their teams are going to look like, sideline reporters, anything like that. But I would assume that those games are going to be a good production, especially because it's the playoff games.
I can't wait to find, because they always find that off the wall but really entertaining guy. Basketball, it's Charles Barkley. Hockey, you've got Biz Nasty. Like, who's going to be the guy that they find that's slightly off the wall? I actually love this setup. Normally, I'm not a huge fan of the Friday game, but the way they've set it up for those first rounds, Saturday, you're going to park your butt on your couch and you're going to have constant playoff action all the way through because there are the 4 top teams that are getting the buys. They should be really good games. And then obviously that Friday game is going to be the marquee matchup because it's the standalone game. I like the setup for this. These are the games that will be at the higher seeds home stadium, correct?
I do believe so, yes. Yeah, in the first round, I think that's how it's happening.
I love it. It's smart. And that's kind of a weekend, too, where you're still going to avoid for the most part, the playoff run of NFL. Obviously not in the playoffs, but last playoff or regular season stretch. I like the setup. It's smart. And it's also when you're going to have not the best bowl games around it. So good spot.
Yeah, so you guys like the first round being played before Christmas then? Because that is a busy time for people. It kind of changes. Like, I feel like it's easier to get those must-see eyes in that New Year's week, that last week of the year for these big marquee games. This, I don't think they're going to have trouble, but I think it is going to be a little bit of an adjustment for fans to put their eyes on these, especially like a Friday night, December 20th. If I'm not mistaken, guys, that seems like a holiday party time. That is kind of that week where people are doing all their celebrations, and hopefully somebody can throw this game on Friday night on ESPN on the television wherever you're at. And you're right, Will. This, of course, misses the NFL playoffs. The wild card round starts on January 11th. So, yeah, they're just competing with, week 16 or 17 of the regular season.
Well,
still.
And they won't even – I think the reason that they've set it up this way, they've already had conversations with the NFL. I don't know what the schedule looks like necessarily for week 16 or week 17, but the NFL – look, the NFL is always going to be king, but I do think that a playoff game, depending on the matchup that is getting played on that Friday or if there's any games on that Saturday, I do think that they will outdraw the NFL. Are there any Saturday games? You have the schedule up.
I have the schedule up right now. We've got December 19th and then 21st. So, yes, there is a Saturday game. No, excuse me, 2 Saturday games. The Texans and Chiefs at 10 a.m. and then the Steelers and Ravens at 1:30.
Never mind.
So you've basically got one NFL game starting an hour after that 9 a.m. game on TNT, and then 1:30 Pacific time, basically a half an hour after that second game on TNT as well.
Never mind. The Steelers-Ravens rivalry, that's always going to outdo you, and it's CJ Stroud versus
really
Mahomes.
Any Chiefs game. I mean, it's going to be a huge draw.
Mind. Yeah, wait, hold on. Where's Taylor Swift at? Does she have a concert that weekend?
That's a good question, too.
If she doesn't, then you definitely lose. So, well, look, you tried. You'll have your marquee matchups in a spot where they don't compete with those games.
The Friday night, and then obviously, so, Will, I think you're saying the Friday and Saturday nights are going to be the marquees then. You can't put them during the day competing against the NFL. That's just impossible.
You'll lose.
But one thing also that does happen, the New Year's Six Bowls that were traditionally kind of spread out in that final week are essentially all happening either on the
You've got
December
New Year's-
31st, and then 3 New Year's Bowls.
Right, and I love it. Well, what they're doing that's smart is they have the Rose Bowl and Sugar Bowl, and they haven't moved that.
Yes.
Like the Rose Bowl is still going to get played at 2. So you're still going to get the fourth quarter, the sun going down, great spot. You're still going to get the late All-State Sugar Bowl. That's going to be the late game. Love that. And then you've got the Fiesta Bowl and the Peach Bowl, which you can kind of move around a little bit more. There isn't so much of that, like, this is a January 1st game for us.
Yeah.
You still have a little bit of flexibility. You can move it around. I like this. Look, you knew that there was going to be change. It always feels like the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl are the two that cannot be moved. And I like that they didn't try and force it to like, hey, the Rose Bowl is going to be on December 31st. Keep the Rose Bowl, keep the Sugar Bowl where they're at. And hopefully there will be, obviously the Pac-12 isn't going to be involved, but hopefully they can find a way to get a Big Ten team or a Pac-12 team in that game. Like how great would it be if somehow Utah made it out of the Big 12 and then Michigan or Ohio State made it out of the Big 10, and then you still get that Pac-12 matchup and Big 10 matchup, kind of.
Yeah, so the 4 bowls you just described, the Fiesta Bowl, the Peach, the Rose Bowl, and then the Sugar Bowl, all basically being played in that New Year's Eve, New Year's Day window. And then the other 2 bowls that were considered the New Year's 6 essentially are being played now in the semifinals round. The Orange Bowl, 4:30 p.m. on ESPN, Thursday, January 9th. And I do believe, by the way, the quarterfinals do not compete with the NFL at all.
But that's why they're where they're at. But
the semifinals start to... No, I don't think the semifinals do either. No, we're good. I'm trying to look at this in conjunction with the NFL schedule.
No, they're set up that way so that they don't compete.
But you don't like a Thursday night.
No, that sucks. And it's at 4:30 our time. Most people are still they're still at work.
Friday, January 10th, 4:30 p.m. kickoff for the Cotton Bowl. Do you think like they should do like a 4 o'clock and a 7 o'clock on a Friday or something?
No, it should be on a Saturday because it's college football. Have one a little bit early. Have your big nooner, and then have your late night game. But you're not going to go and compete with the NFL because at that point the NFL does the Saturday games. But having it at 7:30 Eastern and on Thursday and on Friday because they're both at 7:30, that sucks. But I don't like that.
You can't compete with the wild card round though. You just can't in the NFL because that's wild card round weekend.
I know, and the NFL won't move.
No,
but a college football game, unless it's Maction, shouldn't be played on a Thursday, and it shouldn't be played on a Friday. And I know that they're going to get away with, hey, we can play it on a Friday, we can play it on a Thursday, because high school football is done at that point. But it's not how college football is meant to be consumed.
And then, of course, the national.
That sucks.
Yeah, I am in agreement with you, Will. The national championship, of course, this pushes this out to Martin Luther King Jr. Day, 4:30 p.m. kick on ESPN, January 20th, 2025. That, of course, is that Monday, traditionally like most championships have been in years past, but also because that weekend you've got the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. Now, I do believe you could put that like at a time on the Saturday or Sunday before Martin Luther King Jr. Day where you're not competing with the NFL, because the divisional round, I'm looking at basically 2 games each day. You could schedule around that, right?
You would. What I would wish is that the NFL and college football would come together and set up a time where you could have the 2 NFL games be the lead into the prime time, which is the college football national championship.
Work together, yeah.
Which should be on a Saturday. It should be at a venue where you can treat it like college football and you can go and tailgate, and it's not as corporate, and it can be college football and what the essence of it is. But it's not going to be. I know why they're doing it on Monday. They're setting it up in this time slot so that, one, they'll have all day. They won't compete with the NFL. And then 2, you're in a prime time slot on a Monday. It's a big deal. I get it, but it's not what college football is about. I don't like the timing. It needs to be on the January 18th. That should be the day that it's on. It should
Saturday
be on January 18th, Saturday night, prime time. Have it in like Miami, have it in Texas, have it in California, have it in a spot where people can go out, have it down south. I don't care. Have it in a spot where it can get a traditional college feel. Have the build up all day and let people tailgate. And then when it's done after, let people celebrate and then have their fall into Sunday. I don't like that it's on a Monday. It doesn't feel college football-y. But then again, does college football feel that way anymore with all of the realignment and stuff? Maybe not. Maybe I am now the old man that's yelling at clouds.
I mean, I am interested. We had this conversation yesterday on Primetime with Buck in the one seat talking about how these changes could affect bowl games going forward, and especially with that first round kind of happening before Christmas. You mentioned it affecting other bowl games. It's going to be interesting. It's nice to see this new playoff format on paper, but it will be very interesting to see how it affects other bowls and some of these games going forward.